When God is about to give you something big, He rarely sends an announcement ahead of time. Instead, He begins to move quietly within your heart. My friend, have you ever felt a stirring deep in your soul? That gentle unrest that makes you realize something is shifting? You look around and nothing has changed on the outside, but inside you sense it. God is preparing something. You can't explain it, you can't predict it, but you feel it in your spirit. That stirring is not imagination. It is not coincidence. It is the whisper of God saying, "Get ready." Before God brings great blessing, He brings transformation. He doesn't just hand you what you've been praying for. He shapes you into the person who can carry it. And that shaping, beloved, is rarely comfortable. The Bible reminds us that all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. That means even the confusion, the loss, the waiting, the pain, they are part of His preparation. When God is about to give you something big, the first sign isn't comfort. It's usually discomfort. Doors close, friendships shift, opportunities that once seemed promising suddenly vanish. You begin to wonder if you've done something wrong. But listen to me carefully. You haven't been rejected. You're being redirected. God often closes the wrong doors so He can open the right one at the right time. And the waiting, though painful, is never wasted. In those quiet, uncertain seasons, God is working on you, refining your faith, deepening your trust, teaching you to rely on Him more than your own strength. Many of you are praying for a breakthrough, but what you don't see is that God is preparing you for what comes after the breakthrough. He's not only concerned with the blessing, He's concerned with the burden that blessing will bring. So He trains you, molds you, disciplines you, because He knows the weight of what's coming. A blessing that arrives before you're ready can destroy you, but a blessing that comes after refinement will lift you higher than you ever dreamed possible. Some of you are in that refining place right now. You feel stretched, maybe even broken. You've lost things, lost people, lost your sense of control. And you've been asking, "Lord, why is this happening?" But let me tell you, God is pruning your life, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Just as a gardener cuts back a branch so it can bear more fruit, God is cutting away what cannot stay. He's removing distractions, breaking old habits, shifting your priorities, because He sees what you cannot. You're not being buried, you're being planted. And in due time, you will see growth beyond what you thought was possible. When God is about to give you something big, He begins with a stirring, a shaking, and a stripping. That's how He prepares His children for greatness. Moses felt it in the desert. David felt it in the wilderness. Joseph felt it in the prison. Before every elevation, there was isolation. Before every crown, there was a cross to bear. And friend, the same is true for you. If you're walking through a season of uncertainty, hold your head high and keep your faith firm. This is not the end. This is preparation. God hasn't forgotten you. He's getting you ready. And when the time comes, what He has for you will be far greater than what you've lost. So when the storm rages, when the silence feels heavy, when your prayers seem unanswered, remember this truth. The God who began a good work in you will carry it to completion. He is not done. He is still writing your story, and the next chapter will make sense of all the pain that came before. Hold on. Trust His timing, because when God is about to give you something big, He always starts by giving you a bigger faith. My friend, Every believer who's ever walked with God has faced what I call the refining season. It's that time when everything familiar begins to fade, when you can't quite see where God is leading, and when the things that once made sense suddenly don't anymore. And if you're in that season right now, I want you to hear this. God is not punishing you. He's preparing you. You see, before God can elevate you, He has to refine you. Before He gives you what's next, He has to make sure you're ready for it. And that readiness doesn't come through comfort. It comes through refinement. The Bible reminds us that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. And that includes the things we wish we could avoid, the heartbreak, the disappointment, the waiting. God uses it all. When a gardener prunes a vine, it looks painful. Branches are cut, leaves are stripped away. But what the gardener knows, and what the plant cannot see, is that pruning is necessary for greater fruitfulness. Without it, the branch grows wild and unproductive. But with it, the branch grows strong and fruitful. The same is true in your life. God prunes what is not meant to go with you into the next season. He removes relationships that drain your strength. He closes doors that no longer lead to your destiny. He disrupts patterns that once felt comfortable but now keep you small. He does this not because He is cruel, but because He loves you too much to let you stay where you are. When God prunes, it's because He sees the potential in you that you don't yet see in yourself. He knows what He's planted inside you. He knows the fruit your life can bear. So, He cuts back the unnecessary to make room for the extraordinary. But in the moment, it doesn't feel like progress. It feels like loss. It feels like something's being taken from you. Maybe you lost a friend, a job, an opportunity, or a sense of direction, and you're standing in the ruins of what used to be, asking, Lord, why? Let me tell you something I've learned. When God takes something from your hand, it's only because He's making space for something greater. What you see as subtraction, God sees as preparation for multiplication. Think of Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his family, his health. But the Bible tells us that in the end, the Lord restored to Job twice as much as he had before. Job's pruning led to his doubling, and the same God who restored Job is still working in your life today. You might feel like your world is being stripped bare, but trust me, God's not done. He's still in control. He knows the plans He has for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. When God prunes, He is not cutting you off, He's cutting you free, free from the things that weigh you down, free from the relationships that hinder your growth, free from the fears that keep you from stepping into your destiny. And once you begin to see your pruning as preparation, your perspective changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, Lord, what are you preparing me for? That one question changes everything. It turns pain into purpose, confusion into clarity, and loss into growth. God is more interested in your character than your comfort. He is shaping you for what's coming next. He's developing the strength, the wisdom, and the endurance you'll need for the blessing that's on its way. Don't fight the refining season. Don't despise it, because the very fire you're walking through today is forging the faith you'll need tomorrow. Just like gold is purified in the fire, your faith is being purified in the heat of your trials. When you come out of this, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more anchored in God's promises than ever before. And when the blessing comes, and it will come, you'll look back and say, Now I see why I had to go through that. God was preparing me all along. Let me speak to the person who feels forgotten in the middle of this refining process. You're saying, Lord, it feels like you're silent. It feels like you've left me. But remember this, the teacher is always silent during the test. God hasn't abandoned you. He's watching to see how you respond in the refining. Will you trust Him even when you can't trace Him? Will you praise Him even when you don't understand Him? Because that's what faith really is, trusting God when it doesn't make sense. When you can't see the road ahead, but you keep walking anyway. Every person God has ever used mightily went through a refining season. Moses spent 40 years in the desert. David spent years hiding in caves before he ever wore the crown. Joseph was sold into slavery before he ever sat in the palace. Even Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness before he began his ministry. If the Son of God Himself went through a season of testing before stepping into His purpose, do you think we will be exempt? Of course not. But take heart. The wilderness always comes before the promise. The refining always comes before the release. And when your refining is complete, when the season shifts, you'll realize that what God was doing in you was far greater than what He was taking from you. The things He removed were only making room for what He had prepared. So, my friend, if you're in the pruning, the breaking, the refining, lift your head and give God praise. Not because it's easy, but because it's purposeful. The God who holds the stars in His hands is also holding you, and He will not let a single tear be wasted. Every cut has meaning. Every loss has purpose, and every moment of waiting is leading you closer to the promise He has prepared for you. Remember, when God is about to give you something big, He begins by refining your heart, reordering your priorities, and renewing your faith. So don't run from the process. Trust it, because the God who began this work in you will be faithful to finish it. My friend, one of the hardest lessons in the life of faith is learning to wait on God. It's easy to trust Him when doors are opening, when prayers are answered, when blessings are flowing like a river. But what about when the doors stay shut? What about when heaven seems silent and every prayer echoes back like a whisper in the dark? That's the season of waiting. And I want you to know today, the waiting season is not a wasted season. The Bible reminds us that all things work together for good to those who love God, and that includes the waiting. You see, God's timing is perfect, but it's rarely predictable. He is never late and He is never early. He is always right on time. But that right on time rarely looks like our time. We live in an impatient world. We expect instant results, instant answers, instant change. We don't like to wait. But God doesn't operate on our clock. He operates on His divine calendar. And the waiting, though uncomfortable, is one of His greatest tools for building faith. When you're waiting, you're not being punished. You're being prepared. Because faith isn't proven in your comfort. It's proven in your patience. Waiting teaches us to depend on God instead of our own understanding. It reminds us that He's in control, not us. Sometimes God delays not to deny us, but to develop us. If He gave you what you're praying for right now, you might not be ready to handle it. So instead of answering immediately, He builds you for the blessing. He strengthens your character, your endurance, and your faith, so that when the promise finally arrives, you'll be ready to sustain it. Think of Joseph. He dreamed of greatness, that one day he'd rise to a place of authority. But before that dream came true, he was betrayed, enslaved, and imprisoned. Years passed. He must have wondered, "Lord, what happened to your promise?" But God wasn't ignoring Joseph. He was preparing him. By the time Joseph stood in Pharaoh's court, he wasn't the same man who once wore a coat of many colors. He was wiser, humbler, stronger, and ready for the responsibility that came with the dream. And I tell you today, your waiting is doing the same for you. It's shaping you, stretching you, sanctifying you. God is working behind the scenes in ways you can't yet see. He's aligning the right people, opening the right doors, and closing the wrong ones. He's setting the stage for your moment of breakthrough. But here's the test. Can you trust Him when nothing seems to be happening? Can you hold your faith when the evidence says otherwise? Because that's the real mark of spiritual maturity. Trusting God when you can't see His hand, but you know His heart. Every delay has divine purpose. When Jesus heard that His friend Lazarus was sick, He didn't rush to heal him. He waited. By the time He arrived, Lazarus was dead, and everyone thought it was too late. But that delay became the stage for a greater miracle. Had Jesus gone earlier, He would have healed a sick man. By waiting, He raised a dead one. And in that moment, everyone saw His glory. Sometimes God waits until the situation looks impossible, so that when He moves, there's no question who did it. He lets the door close, the dream die, the clock run out, and then He steps in, so that no one can take credit but Him. Maybe you've been praying for something, a healing, a breakthrough, a change, and it feels like God is taking too long. Let me tell you, He hasn't forgotten. He's just perfecting the timing. You see, God's delays are not denials. They are divine appointments. He's not making you wait to punish you. He's making you wait so the blessing will arrive when you're ready to receive it. Think of a mother who waits 9 months before holding her child. That waiting time isn't wasted. It's the season of growth, nourishment, and preparation. The same is true in your life. If God gave you what you asked for too soon, it could break you. But when it comes in His timing, it will bless you. Isaiah said, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles." That means waiting doesn't weaken you. It strengthens you. It strengthens you. While you're waiting, God is building your wings. And when the time comes, you'll rise higher than you ever thought possible. But there's a condition. Waiting must be active, not passive. Waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means trusting while you keep moving forward. It means worshiping when you don't see the answer. It means obeying the last instruction God gave you, even if you haven't received the next one yet. So don't sit still in despair. Stand firm in faith. Keep showing up. Keep praying. Keep believing. Keep serving. Because your consistency in the waiting is proof of your confidence in God's promise. One day, the waiting will end. The door will open, the breakthrough will come, and you'll see what God was doing all along. You'll realize that His timing wasn't late. It was perfect. Every delay had a reason. Every disappointment was divine redirection. And every moment of waiting was shaping you for the very thing you were praying for. I've seen it time and again. Those who trust God in the waiting always find that He gives them far more than what they expected. And when the blessing finally comes, they're able to carry it with humility, gratitude, and wisdom. So don't lose heart. You may not see progress right now, but God is working behind the curtain. And when that curtain lifts, the scene will make sense. Hold fast, child of God. Your waiting is working for you, not against you. Remember, The blessing is not just in the receiving, it's in the becoming. And in this season of waiting, you are becoming everything God designed you to be. My friend, waiting on God is never meant to leave you standing still forever. There always comes a moment when faith must move from your heart to your feet. It's the moment when God whispers, "Now step forward." The Bible reminds us that all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. But that promise is tied to obedience. God's goodness flows freely, yet He invites us to take part in it through the choices we make. Faith that stays only as words is not faith at all. Real faith takes action. When God told Noah to build an ark, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. When He told Abraham to leave his homeland, there wasn't a map to follow. When He told Peter to step out of the boat, the wind was still raging. Each of them could have waited for a sign, a guarantee, a safer moment. But obedience never waits for perfect conditions. Obedience simply says, "Yes, Lord." And I wonder today, what has God been asking you to do? Maybe He's calling you to forgive someone who hurt you. Maybe He's urging you to start that ministry, to reach out to a neighbor, to give even when money is tight, or to step into a new season that scares you. Whatever it is, don't let fear delay your obedience. Because every step of obedience is a step toward your blessing. God blesses motion, not hesitation. When you act in faith, heaven responds. You may not see the whole road ahead, but God gives light enough for the next step, and that's all you need. Faith is not about understanding everything in advance. It's about trusting the one who does. So many of us pray, "Lord, show me the way." But God often says, "Start walking, and I'll show you as you go." The Red Sea didn't part until Moses raised his staff. The walls of Jericho didn't fall until Joshua's people marched and shouted. Miracles often wait on the other side of obedience. Now, obedience will cost you something. It may cost your comfort, your pride, or your control. But disobedience costs far more. When we resist God's prompting, we delay His promise. When we walk by faith, we draw closer to His purpose. You may say, "But Billy, I'm afraid. What if I take a step and fail?" Let me tell you, the greatest failure is not falling. It's refusing to try when God has called you. You see, God doesn't demand perfection from you. He desires participation. He can steer a moving vessel far easier than a ship that refuses to leave the dock. Sometimes obedience means letting go of people, of habits, of your own plans. Sometimes it means standing firm when everyone else is telling you to move on. And sometimes it means taking a risk that seems foolish to the world, but makes perfect sense in the kingdom of God. Think of Peter again. When he saw Jesus walking on the water, he said, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come." And Jesus said one word, "Come." Peter stepped out, and for a moment he did the impossible. He walked on water because his eyes were fixed on Jesus. But when he looked at the waves instead of the Savior, he began to sink. The lesson is clear. Keep your eyes on the one who called you, not on the storm that surrounds you. Obedience is not about having no fear. It's about trusting God more than you trust your fear. It's about saying, "Lord, I don't understand, but I will obey." And when you take that step, God meets you right where your foot falls. When Abraham climbed Mount Moriah to offer Isaac, he didn't know that God had already placed a ram in the thicket. Provision was waiting, but he couldn't see it until he obeyed. Likewise, Your provision is often hidden until you take the step God is asking of you. Every act of obedience builds your faith for the next one. When you obey in small things, God can trust you with bigger things. Jesus said, "He who is faithful in little will be faithful in much." Maybe the reason your big hasn't arrived yet is because God is still waiting for you to act on the small. So, I challenge you today, whatever God has been whispering in your heart, do it. Don't wait until the conditions look favorable. Don't wait until you have every answer. Take the step now. Start the conversation, write the letter, offer the forgiveness, plant the seed. Because obedience today opens the door to miracles tomorrow. And when you act, do it with humility. Don't obey God for applause or recognition. Do it because you love Him. Do it because you trust that His ways are better than yours. And as you walk in obedience, you will discover that peace follows every step, even when the path is uncertain. God's blessings are not found on the sidelines of hesitation. They are discovered on the road of faith. And each step you take in obedience moves you closer to the moment when God reveals the something big He's been preparing all along. My friend, every path of struggle, every tear you have shed, every night you have prayed and wondered if heaven heard you, none of it has been wasted. God has been shaping you. He has been molding you. He has been preparing you. And when the time comes, you will see that every valley was leading to a mountain. When God is about to give you something big, He does not simply change your circumstances. He changes you. Because before He can give you the promise, He must prepare the person. And that is the true miracle of His work. Not only that He opens doors, but that He makes you ready to walk through them. You see, we often pray for God to change our situation. But God is far more interested in changing our spirit. He knows that a new season without a renewed heart is like pouring new wine into old wineskins. It cannot last. So He takes His time. He refines your faith, builds your strength, tests your patience, and deepens your love. The Bible reminds us that all things work together for good to those who love God, and that includes the very trials that once broke your heart. Every disappointment, every delay, every detour, it all had purpose. And when you look back from the other side, you will say, "Lord, I see it now. You were working even when I couldn't see it." That is the beauty of walking with God. Nothing is ever wasted. The tears you cried watered the soil of your future harvest. The prayers you prayed in secret built the foundation of your strength. And the pain you endured in silence became the testimony that will one day set someone else free. When the breakthrough comes, and it will come, you'll recognize it not just by what changes around you, but by what has changed within you. You will have a peace that the world can't give, and a strength that circumstances can't steal. You will walk into the promise with humility because you'll remember how long the journey took. You will carry gratitude instead of pride, worship instead of worry, purpose instead of panic. The blessing will no longer define you. Your relationship with the one who blessed you will. When Joseph stood before Pharaoh, the same brothers who sold him into slavery later bowed before him. And Joseph could have sought revenge, but instead he said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." That's the heart of a man who has been refined. That's what happens when you allow God to prepare you for something big. You emerge not bitter, but better. And that, dear friend, is the mark of true greatness in the kingdom of God. It isn't measured by power or possessions, but by the character forged in the fire of faith. Maybe right now you're still waiting for your breakthrough. You're saying, "Lord, I've prayed, I've trusted, I've obeyed, but I still don't see it." Let me assure you, when God finishes His preparation, nothing on earth can stop what He's about to do in your life. The same God who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, who parted the sea for Moses, who raised Lazarus from the dead, He has not changed. He is still in the business of miracles, and He will do for you what He has promised in His perfect time. But when that breakthrough comes, remember this: the blessing is not the end, it's the beginning of a new responsibility. The greater the gift, the greater the calling to use it for His glory. So don't just enjoy the blessing, steward it. Use it to serve others, to lift the weary, to encourage the broken, to point the world back to Jesus, because that's what it means to walk in the fullness of what God has given you. Maybe you've prayed for success, and God has given you a platform. Use it to speak hope. Maybe you've prayed for provision, and God has blessed your hands. Use it to bless others. Maybe you've prayed for healing, and God has restored you. Use your story to remind someone else that He still heals. That's the purpose of the something big. It was never just about you. It was always about His glory shining through your life. And if you will live that way, faithful in the valley, grateful on the mountain, obedient in the middle, then you will discover that God's greatest blessings don't just come to you, they flow through you. There will come a day when you'll look back and realize that every test became a testimony, every setback became a setup, and every delay was divine timing. And you'll thank God not only for what He gave, but for how He prepared you to receive it. Let me tell you something from my heart. God never brings you this far to leave you now. If He has begun a good work in you, He will complete it. The door that He opens, no one can shut. The promise He has spoken will come to pass. It may not look like what you imagined, and it may not arrive when you expected, but when it does, it will be exactly what you needed. So keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Keep your heart anchored in His Word. Keep your faith alive even when the night feels long, because dawn is coming. And when the light breaks, you'll see that the same God who held you in the waiting is the God who will walk beside you in the winning. When God is about to give you something big, He doesn't just bless your life, He changes your life. He transforms your heart, renews your mind, and fills your spirit until you can't help but overflow. And when you live in that overflow, others will see His hand in your story. Your life will become a living testimony of what grace can do. So stand firm. The God who called you is faithful. The God who promised you is true. And the God who began the work will finish it in His perfect way. When you walk through the fire, He will be with you. When you pass through the waters, they will not overwhelm you. And when the blessing comes, and it will come, you'll be ready to carry it with wisdom, humility, and strength. My friend, the best is yet to come. Hold on, trust God, and step boldly into the future He has prepared for you. Because when God is about to give you something big, He first gives you Himself. And that, above all, is the greatest gift of all. My friend, if this message has spoken to your heart today, don't let it end here. Take a moment to thank God for where He's brought you from and for what He's preparing you for. Remember, every trial has purpose, and every blessing carries responsibility. If you felt that stirring in your spirit, hold on. God is not finished with you yet. If this word has encouraged you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their waiting is not wasted. Subscribe and stay with us here as we continue walking together in faith, discovering the strength, the hope, and the power that only God can give. Until next time, keep trusting, keep believing, and keep walking in His purpose. The best is still ahead, because with God, it always is.